So can you tell us about the specific programs in terms related to the Islamic economics in your colleagues?
So in my college, you have a master's program,
Yeah.
S2 program. In Indonesia, they call it S2.
Strata 2, yeah.
Yeah. So
master program in what? In Islamic
master
finance?
program in Islamic finance.
Okay.
So we also have we trying to create area of concentration so people can focus more on sustainability. So nowadays it's more trending. People are also focusing more on AI and fintech and so on and so forth, and see how they can become a possible disruption to Islamic finance. And we also have our PhD program as well
In Islamic finance.
in Islamic finance and economics. So the good thing about the masters and PhD program is that when it's open for international students, it's a sponsored program, so you will get funding. We still giving stipends, so you will get monthly allowances. Yeah. So what we want to do is that again our vision is always to attract the best mind and the best brain and ambitious people to come in, and so that they can use this platform and integrate with the vision of the country, and so that we can continue to produce what we call as a world-class human capital. That's the idea.
So when your focus is on sustainability, so that is exactly in line with the concept of Waqf, where we have to, cannot reduce, the corpus. Yeah. So of course, I believe the discussion or the topic for this dissertation on Waqf are so many.
Yeah, people are looking at Waqf as a principles, in terms of addressing what we call as a redistributions situations. But the good thing about Qatar is that their Awqaf institution is very strong. The fund and they are not just looking at typical way of Awqaf, but Awqaf in Qatar has more gone into commercialization. Is more forward looking, and then they have a proper institutions in terms of managing that as well. So the thing is that because it's a small country and everything is concentrated as far the institutions is concerned and so on, so they were able to create I would say right now a vibrant ecosystem, and the World Cup itself is just a catalyst. Right. So when you give the people a common purpose, then they realize that you can actually channel those energies in the right way. So although I'm an expert, I just been there for 2 years, but I always believe that we need to create an example for Muslim world. Right. And Indonesia is also being mentioned a number of, in fact many times in Qatar too, because there are a lot of model, especially the empowerment model, social finance model. They were quite successful in Indonesia because these are more of a bottom-up approach. And so there is a need of greater collaboration between institutions in Malaysia, Qatar, and Indonesia, so on and so forth, in terms of harmonizing this model, so that if any country, for example, like Libya or Lebanon, wants to do something, they can actually have a proper framework. A framework that fit into our identity and our Islamic economics model.
So my last question, this is about World Cup. Because during the World Cup, I many times watch not only on the match, but on the issue of developing Islam as a religion. Because I see that hotels are limited there. So towards the World Cup, Qatar is establishing new hotels, new accommodations, in the container and the ships, and come to the Qatar, and sometimes when the match is in the afternoon, right? So in the morning or at night, the supporter, the supporter is going around in the city of Qatar, and the government of Qatar itself is preparing like ulama to spread the Islam, so that all the people all around the world, when they want to know Islam, they can get easily the information of Islam. So how do you see the development of Islam because of the World Cup?
I think one thing that has changed is that people realize that Qatar, and especially the Muslim country, we are capable of hosting such a big event.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people caught by surprise how efficient the World Cup was.
Yeah, yeah.
So some people say because of the investment they have put in and so on and so forth. But I always have a belief that money is always like one side of the story. The other side of the story is that because there's also a commitment from the government, despite all the criticism they have. The migrant workers, the other issues that they were very sensitive and so on and so forth. But they let the World Cup do the talking. And they were not apologetic about the identity as an Arab Muslim country. Right?
Yes.
Even the opening ceremony, you notice that they use the verses of Quran.
Yeah.
Instead of just dancing and singing alone, but they trying to actually preach Islam in a way that is acceptable to the masses. So I think a lot of people who came and they look at the infrastructure, modern metro system, modern buildings, modern stadium, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of making people to think that actually the Muslim world is not so bad. So just because you are not exposed to it and you have this kind of prejudice and preconceptions about what the Muslim world is, but actually it's not true. And I think not many people know this. Qatar is actually one of the safest country in the world. You can walk 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, and you still feel that you're actually safe and no one can actually do harm to you. And this is a very huge social capital. I mean, so a lot of things that they want in the Western world. If I can go the topic out of it, the security, the safety, and they pay so much money for it, and you can actually get it in the Muslim world, and that is quite amazing. So Muslim world is not just about how you see in TV, but if you really experience it, there are some countries, even for example Malaysia, Indonesia, Turkey, for example, who can actually give you decent life or not even better in some of the Western world. So I think this idea of modernity, this idea of post-modernity, this idea of liberalism is just one side of the argument, and the world has to start accept the fact that there is another set of argument that will become dominant in the future. And I remember, just to conclude the podcast, I remember I had this research experience, and we went to Pakistan and we talked to one of these Western guy, and then he said, I'm so impressed that you have a concept called mandatory contribution like zakat and awqaf, because although we have this thing in the Western world, but most of them do it for the name. They do it because they want to name the building and so on, or sponsor the universities and everything. But here you do it because you want to get the pleasure of Allah. And if you can harness that power, I think the role of distributing system, which we all trying to create social justice, can be actually achieved. And the last point is that whatever we talk about, we cannot achieve this unless we have a proof of concept. And the fact that we have so many good Muslim countries now coming up, like Indonesia, for example, everyone is talking about it will become the leading Muslim country in 5 to 10 years in terms of their GDP, will close to 2 to 3 trillion US dollar. So the world has to see what we have achieved. So I think that is the most important point.
Okay, Dr. Eskandar, I think this is a very informative discussion. But if I may to ask you about the concluding remarks, 3 things that can be learned from Qatar for other Muslim country, what is it?
I think that
or 2, or maybe or whatever number.
From my limited experience, I think the first thing is that the role of institutions. I think is very critical, and putting the right people to lead the right institutions are also very critical.
Right people,
either you develop your own people, or you bringing the experts in terms of ensuring that the institutions is doing what it's supposed to do. I think this is the fundamental problem in the Muslim world. The transparency, the governance and everything are below par. So we have to improve that and to reach a certain level and to really empower the role of institutions. I think number 1. Number 2, one of the things that Qatar has successfully is that creating a multinational but still considered as a state-owned enterprise. So Qatar Energy, Qatar Airways, Qatar Foundation, all the things with Qatar in it, you can see that they are professionally managed, and they are able to show that state-owned enterprise is not really linked to poor system, poor governance,
right.
but they're able to harness the power of state-owned enterprise. So this is the second point. I think the third thing is that, which I re-emphasize, is that how they regulate what we call as the third sector, which is the charity sector. How they create an institutions that focus more on redistributions, and they put it as a government agenda to really build a world-class redistribution system, which is important in the country that trying to support other Muslim countries, and it create an image. And I know few Qatari always say, Allah is helping us because we are the channel to help others. So they take pride of what they are doing to help other Muslim countries too. Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Iskandar. This is a very good discussion, especially for those of the people who watch this video. If you want to come to Qatar, you have to watch this video first, so that you know how Qatar is in terms of developing the economics, in terms of developing the Islamic economics. Once again, thank you very much, Dr. Iskandar. Have a good trips back to Qatar later on. Thank you very much. With that, I end this discussion. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you.